Good afternoon. Is it worse to be before lunch or an hour after lunch? That last panel was pretty fascinating. I was wondering if Steve could convert a virtual agent into a virtual mom so that every time my son in college looks at his phone, it says, "Hey, do your homework. Are you doing your homework?" So good afternoon. My name is Gwen Yamamoto. I am the Executive Director of the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. We were constituted in 2014 by the legislature to democratize clean energy. Our purpose is to provide finance, access to capital to underserved ratepayers. And we define underserved ratepayers as low and moderate income households, renters. We have about 43% of our households rent because they cannot afford the real estate. And renters don't own their rooftops, as well as small businesses and nonprofits. We're able to do this by an innovative financing program, which we call the Green Energy Money Saver On-Bill program. And this enables us to make a loan to install solar and collect our loan repayments on the HECO utility bill. So HECO, MECO, HELCO. This allows us to tie the loan obligation to a utility. Oh, actually, go back. Well, you can leave it there. Just leave it. Well, you can. Well, yeah. I'll tell you when. This allows us to tie the obligation to the utility meter instead of the person, enabling the repayment of that loan to pass from account holder to account holder or tenant to tenant. And that's how we're able to do it. Next slide, thanks. Like all government agencies, and you guys know this, right? Unlike a bank or a credit union, we're not able to increase our staff based on our workload, as the legislature needs to both approve the number of FTEs as well as the personnel and operating budgets. So as such, our staff is very small. We have 5 full-time employees, and we currently have over 300 loans in process. And it's not because we have 300 loans in process because we're slow. The reason why it takes so long is because we are helping underserved ratepayers. As a government agency, we need to have consumer protection measures in mind, right, to protect our borrowers. And so we approve the loan up front, but we don't actually pay the contractor and fund the loan until the installation is made. And it's not just the installation made. When the installation is finalized, that means that the contractor needs to go through get the building permit, install, close the building permit, and that could take 6 to 9 months. They need to get interconnected with the utility, and the way we check that is we actually go into their system to make sure that the solar PV system is working, because if it's not working, we're not going to fund the contractor. So we do all that, and that's why we have a lot of loans in process, because we're kind of in a waiting pattern for the system to be installed, for the utility to interconnect it, and for the building permit to be closed. But that takes a lot of managing because we have a lot of loans application in process. Next slide, please. As a de novo non-traditional lender providing solar financing, we had a very paper-centric and manual process. The same information, such as the borrower's name, needed to be inputted multiple times. As an example, we would put it in our underwriting worksheet. We would put it in a eligibility or adverse action letter, approval letter, loan documents, UCC financing statements, and other program documents. Not only was this very inefficient, but it's also prone to human error. Additionally, on a quarterly basis, we are required to report over 590 metrics and data to the Public Utilities Commission, and we did not have a centralized data warehouse. Next slide, please. Our transformation project was to create an automated end-to-end loan processing solution that would take us from loan origination to underwriting and loan approval, then have the solution prepare the loan documents and program documents and automatically email it to our borrowers for e-sign to be sent back to us. So part of you are probably going like, why is she doing this from scratch, and why doesn't she just purchase a loan origination system that's already in place, right? I know you're thinking that, like, why would she do that? That's because, okay, how many of you have ever applied for a loan? Mortgage, car loan, right? Okay, everybody, right? So when you apply for a loan, the bank you'll give them like your maybe a pay stub if you're applying for a mortgage or your tax returns. The bank will pull a credit report. And based on the number of the credit report, unlike golf, the higher is the better, right? The higher the better. If you're at a certain point, the bank is just going to say, no, we're not going to be able to finance you because your credit score is too low, right? But if you're at a certain point, then they're going to look at your tax returns or your pay stubs, and they're going to calculate what is called a debt to income ratio, and they're going to say, okay, this is your income, these are all the debts you're paying. If we add that mortgage loan or the car loan, is there enough excess for us to approve it? So that's how a typical lender will do it. We are non-traditional, so we don't pull credit reports. Instead, what we do is we work with the utility and we find out, did this ratepayer have any disconnection notices? That's our credit screen, right? So we don't have any, there's no loan solution that does that, right? On the second side, we don't do debt to income ratios because we don't ask for any pay stubs and we don't ask for any tax returns. What we're looking at is when we install the solar system, we're looking at the savings that the solar PV will give the ratepayer, so much for that they can pay for my loan back and then have extra savings. So at minimum, we need to estimate at least a 10% minimum savings, including my loan repayment, in order to approve that loan. And so I don't know, how many people have solar PV? Okay, so if you got solar PV long time ago, like me, it's net energy, right? But if you got it recently, net energy is gone, but now it's customer grid supply plus, customer self-supply, smart meter, then there's battery bonuses, and there's all different things. And every utility, every island has a different rate and a different credit. So it takes a lot of a different type of underwriting for us to approve the loan. But that's why we're not able to use a off-the-shelf loan origination solutions. That's why we had to make our own. Additionally, what we needed was for all that metrics that we report to the PEC on a quarterly basis, we needed to have a data warehouse to store all of our data so that we can download it, slice it, dice it, and efficiently generate reporting metrics. And automation also will improve job satisfaction, increase our accuracy, and increase our loan productivity. Next slide, please. We were successful in creating an online portal for applicants to electronically submit an application by applicant type, such as homeowner, tenant, landlord, and for a solar lease. So they would just go to our website, go to the residential, then they click on where it says, click here to apply online, and then it goes straight into the Salesforce portal. They select what type of applicant they are. Maybe they're a tenant, or maybe it's a landlord that's going to have a tenant install. When they do that, they start inputting data. It doesn't look like an application, it's just inputting data. So when they're inputting the data, they'll answer questions like, are you on a Hawaiian home lease land? Is your property held in trust, right? So they'll go through all of these things. As they answer the questions, it will ping the system on what types of documents it needs, right? So during the application process, they are all required to upload a copy of the utility bill because that's what we're basing our savings on. We need to know what the consumption is. We need a valid government issued ID because we need to know who they are. And if they said, yes, their property is held in trust, then they need to update the trust document. If it's a leasehold land, then they need to upload the lease. And you go, why would we need that? It's because our loans are 20 years to make the payment affordable for our borrowers, and we just need to make sure that while the leases are 99 years, we need to make sure that the lease term is at least 20 years to match a term of our loan. Unfortunately, because of the complexity of our underwriting, because depending on the interconnection agreement, depending on the types of batteries they were, we weren't able to automate the underwriting. So we're still doing the underwriting outside on a spreadsheet, a giant spreadsheet, but having all of the application information being put into Salesforce is really making our lives a lot easier. Next slide, please. We began working on the project right before the pandemic. It was after one of those what is the contest that we're going to honor the kids? Hackathon, right? So it was a hackathon team that first started looking into it for us, and then we started working on it right before the pandemic. programming continued through the pandemic, but like a lot of the other government agencies, during the COVID emergency, the state needed all hands on deck to help protect the public and access federal funds to help displaced workers and our struggling businesses. So this is how it goes. Hey, Gwen, you used to do SBA loans, right? Yeah. Okay, we need you to go out and do SBA PPP loan outreach, right? So that's one thing. Then it was like, oh, so you used to work for a bank, right? Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, so we need you to help with the Hawaii Restaurant Card program, which was a pretty amazing program. I gotta say, the idea came from a gentleman who was born and raised in Kauai, Kurt Osaki, and then it was taken on by the legislature and the governor, and it injected $70 million into our restaurant industry and the entire food supply chain over a 2.5-month period, helping over 4,200 restaurants and businesses with using over 2 million debit card transactions, and also assisting over 142,000 displaced workers at a time. So it was a pretty amazing project. The other thing we did was with my sister agency, Len Higashi's right there, HTDC, we worked on the State Small Business Credit Initiative to help small businesses. So with these added special projects, we just did not have the internal capacity to complete the transformation project. However, in 2023, I have to go back to the gym and re-engage Pacific Point because we really plan to refocus and complete the tasks, including mapping the data stored in Salesforce to our loan documents so that it can be automatically created, uploading the data outside of Salesforce. So we were doing loans 5 years before Salesforce. So we got 5 years worth of applications and loan data that we need to get into the data warehousing for us in order for us to slice and dice it, and programming calculations and metrics for data download. Finishing this project will be critical as we work on rolling out new programs like our commercial property assessed financing program, as well as other programs that might be launched if we are successful in being awarded some of that Inflation Reduction Act greenhouse gas reduction funds. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we look forward to reaching it. Thank you.